What's up, Rolando? We are live for another Freedom Builder Bootcamp Q&A session. How's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going, Greg? How's it going, Freedom Builders? It's always good to be on these calls, isn't it, Greg?
It is. I'm excited to be back. I feel like it's been a long time. I know we have a lot of good questions today, and I am excited to answer them. So yeah, for those of you who aren't familiar with how the process works, Rolando and I don't have any agenda for this call except to answer all of your questions. So we'll start by taking some of the pre-submitted questions that are in the comment section. After that, we're going to take all of the live questions in the live chat box. So what do you think? Should we go ahead and get started?
Let's do it. I got the first question coming from Suad, asking, how does Jungle Scout extension estimate the monthly revenue figure for products?
Good question. I'll take that one. The Jungle Scout, so at Jungle Scout, we've built models that we've kind of perfected over the past 6 years that use a number of demand signals from Amazon to gauge how well the products are selling. So one of the most prominent ones is something called the Amazon bestseller rank, which is on the Amazon pages. So Amazon ranks all the products like 1 through a million or whatever it is in that category. And at Jungle Scout, we know that, okay, the product with the bestseller rank of 100 sells 1,000 a month, and 1,000 sells 500 a month. And then we can kind of like interpolate or build models to estimate all the ones that we don't know the actuals for. So yeah, that's how it works. There are, I was actually just looking at our accuracy dashboard this morning, and it's, as of today, our average was kind of like 88%. So you can think about it as like plus or minus 10 or 20% is accuracy, but plenty accurate enough to use it for kind of product research purposes.
All right. Looks like our next question comes from Crystal. She's asking, I'm trying to get my brand name added to the Amazon catalog. I've contacted Amazon and they indicated I need to do one of the following before they can proceed with my request. So 1, manufacturer or publishers for books, websites, you are clearly showing the suggested changes along with visible product identifiers, like the UPC, EAN, ISBN. 2, a high resolution product picture, clearly showing the suggested changes along with the visible product identifier. 3, a high resolution photo of the item in its original packaging showing the product identifier, UPC, EAN, ISBN, etc. Code. So this is, so it says to meet their needs, I'm thinking I could take a picture of my product in custom packaging that includes my brand logo on it and showing the FN SKU. Note, my custom packaging will probably be a poly mailer. And so she's just asking, would we agree? And actually, yes, I would agree. That's what you want to do. You want to take as many angles of the product with your branding on it, in the packaging, so front and back, side, and it will be the FN SKU. It's not going to be a barcode at this stage, right? More than likely. So yeah, that would be the way to proceed with that. All right. The next question comes from Rob, and he's asking, is adding a border around our main image against terms of service, TOS? And yes, that would be a violation of their terms of service. So I would recommend just keeping your product on a white background. Sometimes it could even suppress your listing. So that's why it's best just to abide by that rule when it comes to, I know that it's tempting. There's probably a competitor that's doing something differently and they're violating the terms of service. You just don't want to ever fall in a situation where your item just gets suppressed. The images is what's causing the issue too, the holdup. I'll give you this one, Rob. I'll give you this one. It's from Rob as well, Greg. Do you rank for keywords in the have question section? In the list? I can hear you now.
Okay. do you rank for keywords in the question section? Um, yes and no. Like the way like Amazon's keyword algorithms are very sophisticated. So they don't just, it's not like a kind of like the olden days where they only took into account things um, like where the keywords were or stuff like that. It's much more sophisticated in that like they understand what people are searching for and then buying and what category you're in and who else are comparing you to or like whatever else. So short answer is like just because you put that keyword in there doesn't mean you're going to rank for it. The longer answer is it definitely isn't going to hurt. So if you want customers or Amazon to know things about your product, there's no real downside by like having that stuff in the question area. Does that make sense?
Roger that. All right. Michael has the next question, and it's he's asking for up and down only. How does Amazon determine what the bid is going to be? That's question number one. Do you recommend bidding anything in addition via dynamic bidding to occupy the top position? I have a food brand, and I'm more than happy to have a 50 to 100% ACOS starting out, but I'm trying to determine the best strategy. You want to tackle that one, Greg? Sorry, I can't hear you. Seems to have lost you.
Weird. Do you have me back now?
Yeah, gotcha.
Strange. The first question was as far as like bidding up or down, or how does Amazon decide that?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they talking about? Sorry, I don't have the question right in front of me. Are they
Sorry,
talking
yeah.
about when you say like you'll pay more for the higher or low or the to be closer to the top placement?
Yeah, it looks like it's tied to the dynamic bidding up or down. You know, how do you determine that? And then, would you recommend dynamic bidding?
Mm.
In general, there's a danger with dynamic bidding, and one of the dangers is that it could spend a lot of money, and you could go through if you don't know what you're doing, it could really blow through your budget very quickly. My recommendation is just raise the bid manually by by 100%. I think that's the safest way to do it. Um, Amazon, the way they calculate, and I imagine this might tie into what you were saying, what you were asking earlier, Michael. The way they calculate it, of course, it's their algorithm. It's determining that throughout the day what people are paying in order to win the bid, to win out the bid. So that's why I say use the range, use the high end of the bid, that the recommended or the suggested bid, use the high end as your starting point, and then raise it by 100% of that. That would almost guarantee that you're going to win the bid every possible time. Of course, it's going to deplete more of your budget, but if you feel fairly confident on a keyword, and that's the most important part is if you feel confident on a keyword that's performed well in the past, that's the keyword that you're going to increase the bid. In preparation, in particular for Prime Day, you're going to see that suggested bid is actually also going to increase because there's going to be more people competing. The way I like to look at it is like the stock exchange, right? It's you have buyers, you have sellers, and it's just constantly moving back and forth. So that suggested bid range is always going to fluctuate. And on a peak season like Prime Day, that range is going to just widen. And so you just got to be mindful of that and try to compete as best as possible. Don't use dynamic bid, the dynamic bid strategy, because that will definitely wipe you out fairly quickly. All right. So Rob has the next question. If you're targeting products that are no longer on Amazon, is there a need to remove it? So I imagine you're doing like product targeting campaigns here, Rob. And I would suggest if it's no longer on Amazon, it's just not going to. You don't have to remove it, so it'll just naturally like they don't. From my experience, Amazon systems, even if, like, let's say that your product is out of stock, they'll stop the PPC on your product. So the same is in the inverse. Like if there's a product that you were targeting and it's no longer in existence, they're not going to charge you and they're not going to display your ad on that page. All right. Want me to keep going, Greg? With the question, we got quite a few that were like submitted early on. So. All right, I'll go with Eunice's question. It looks like Eunice asks, I run manual PPC campaigns for exact, phrase, broad. My phrase and broad campaigns are doing okay. The ACOS is not really ideal yet, but not getting any sales from exact. And my exact keywords came from the automatic. What should I do? How can I lower the ACOS? Should I be looking at other metrics to help lower the ACOS? Yeah, we got a lot of PPC questions. So for the people that are just starting out right now, you could kind of take this with a grain of salt, but I'm going to answer this question. You're definitely you're not, what the goal is, you're taking your keywords that are performing the best and you're moving them into an exact match campaign because you want to allocate a budget specific to that campaign, right? That's the overall goal. However, because you're going through this process, you may have 1, 2, or 3 keywords in that exact match campaign. Therefore, as you can imagine, they're not going to be cycled through as much. You're not going to be getting sales constantly or impressions from those keywords constantly. As you start building out that exact match campaign and adding more keywords that are high performers for you, then of course you're going to start seeing more impressions, more conversions. But the goal is to definitely move any keywords from your automatic campaign, your broad and phrase match campaigns that have done well into an exact match campaign. So hopefully that answers that question. So you're on the right track. ACOS only comes down as you continue to repeat this process and continue to find your top performing keywords. All right. I'll let you ask the next question or answer the next question, Greg.
All right, give it to me.
All right. For PPC, this is another PPC question. We got a lot of PPC. Eunice asks, for PPC bid, there's usually a suggested bid and a range of bid prices. Which price should I base my price for that I'm bidding? 150% or to 200%?
Which of the, is she saying like, does she go 150 or 200% of the bottom range or the top range, do you think?
Yeah, it sounds like, I think like I kind of answered this one a little earlier. What you want to use is that top range and maybe increase it by 100%. You don't necessarily need to go 200. Would you agree with that, Greg?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. So just to give you a little more insight, like what happens is when you create these bids, it goes into like an ad auction, and Amazon chooses the products that they think are the most relevant, so like the most likely to convert for the customer. That in combination with how much you're willing to spend for it. So the reason that it gives you a range is because like people's bids change throughout the day. Some people run out of budget. Other people they decide aren't like a really good candidate for that particular keyword. So it's like always kind of changing. So that's why it like gives you a range. Now, when you're just starting out, if you're trying to be really aggressive, you want to bid like above that range to make sure that Amazon will give you impressions, because if they like haven't identified that your product is relevant for that keyword yet, but you're willing to spend a lot of money on a click, they still might give you impressions anyway. So it was a little bit of like a roundabout way of answering it, but I think if you understand kind of like big picture how it works, it might be easier for you to kind of answer some of these questions.
All right. And today just appears to be like a all-out PPC course. That's good. I mean, that means everybody's definitely putting in the work. So Rob asks, my ranking has decreased. I'm planning to go aggressive with PPC to increase ranking before Prime Day. Is that a good idea? What I would suggest is definitely one of the most important elements of a successful PPC campaign is that you have matching keywords, or that you've done a very thorough analysis of your listing, that you have your top performing keywords are actually in your listing. Because if you think about it, what PPC campaign is just trying to match up those keywords that you're targeting to and finding that ideal customer and just trying to match it to your listing. So that's why that's very important and critical. You still have time, with Prime Day next week. You definitely want to make sure your listing is optimized. That's first and foremost. It doesn't hurt to start amping up and raising your budget and raising bids this early on, because you definitely want to also start boosting your listing. So yes, so long answer for the fact that yes, you do want to increase your budget and your bids. All right. Rob asks again, let's see, my product got taken down because of a certain keyword that's restricted. Is there a way to know which keywords would flag a listing? Typically, when it comes to that, the most important thing is definitely stay away from brand names. Well, I guess that would be more on your listing. You don't ever want to use other brand names. So that's a very important part of it. Any other suggestions that you would have, Greg?
I don't know if I've ever had a listing get taken down for keyword. I've had it for like copyright infringement, which maybe that's what they're talking about, but I don't think I've ever specifically that said like due to a keyword or something like that.
Yeah, and I think in the era of COVID, you're going to have if you have keywords that are related to like COVID-19 or anything in that space, you definitely want to err on the side of caution. Unfortunately, there isn't a tool that can identify which keywords are restricted. But I would, like I said, definitely stay away from any brands, major brand names. Like you don't want to include like Apple or Microsoft or anything like that, a brand name or a competitor's brand name. You also don't want to, you just want to avoid anything COVID related. So just always err on the side of caution, and the goal is to find keywords that are specific to your product. Stay in that space.
Yeah, actually, I just thought of one, Rolando, and that's actually the Jungle Snugs product, which was a case study product. I remember it got suppressed because they thought it fell into the group of like pesticides that had to have special there's special rules and regulations around them, essentially. So it wasn't that like we were using an illegal keyword, but the keywords or the type of product that we did have like kind of flagged the system that it needed to have I guess like the more, I don't know, like I forget the word I'm looking for, but it's like the regulatory action around it, essentially.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would also suggest typically what they will do is get in contact with seller support, or they would send you an email, and they actually give instructions on what actions to take. I know it's never going to be 100%, but just follow the actions and stay in constant contact with them and say, hey, because there may have been, in the case of the Snugs, there was actually some training that needs to be done in order for the listing to be active again. So that's why I say just follow the steps and the guidelines that they have to get your listing back up and at them.
Cool. Let's hop over in the live chat here and grab some of these, Rolando. Is that cool?
Sounds good.
All right. Rob said, super excited for my first Prime Day. Awesome. Nice. We're excited for you. Prime Days typically, I mean, it's always a very exciting time for Amazon sellers. Lots of extra sales, which is great. ZR Sela says, can I use a Wyoming agent to form an LLC even though I'm living in California? So I guess to start, I'm not a legal professional. If you want to do this the right way, you need to consult with like an attorney about it. My understanding from the businesses that I've formed over the years is if you do not have a local presence, then it is typically okay to set up an LLC, kind of whatever jurisdiction that you want, okay? So what I mean by this is like if I have an ice cream store in Austin, Texas, like I need to have an LLC in the state of Texas because like I have a local presence there. With like an online business like this, it's a little bit different because there's no local presence. So in most states, it doesn't matter, or it's perfectly fine to set up an LLC as a disregarded entity in a different state. Now, I've heard that California is the exception to this rule. Like most things that have to do with taxes or business or legal stuff, California is usually a lot stricter, likes to kind of play by their own rules. So California is the one state that I've heard has kind of issues with that. So yeah, it's not a great answer for you, but I would say like you probably want to do at least a little bit more digging if you live in the state of California.
And Rob gives a shout out. He says, love the new automation review feature.
Yeah.
Rock on, isn't that amazing?
Rolando, why don't you tell everyone what it is in case they don't know?
Yeah. So as of yesterday, we actually launched an automated way to be able to get more reviews. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. It's just something that you want to go in and activate. If you go in, maybe I don't know if you're able to share your screen there, Greg, but to show where it's located, where they would actually activate this auto review feature. But essentially, if you've purchased from Amazon, you've probably received an email that allows you to give a star rating, and it's just automatically generated. But it's not something. Well, it's not automatically generated. There is actually a button that you have to go in and press, and it's a manual and arduous process. We just automated that whole process for you, and now you're able to request more reviews. It's completely legit. This is something that Amazon is encouraging sellers to do. So definitely, we're the first. It's the first of its kind, and I would recommend that you take advantage of that.
We've never done the share screen with this setup before, but hey, I'll try it real quick and see what happens. I don't know.
I'll also drop the video in there from YouTube that kind of talks about that Lenny talks about from yesterday.
Okay, but yeah, it's super easy to do. Essentially, all you have to do is log into your Jungle Scout account, go into under marketing, and there's an area that says review automation. You flip a little switch, and then all of a sudden it automatically, oh yeah, there it looks like we're able to, right when we were able to get to pull up. I should stop sharing. So 1 second. But yeah, like I said, you go in there into the marketing section, the review automation section, and then all you have to do is turn it on, and it's going to automatically be sending these out to all of your all of the customers. So you can see all the different orders here. All these are still pending because they're not eligible to be sent out yet. But what this is doing is it's sending the little, you can see some have been requested here. It's sending the review request kind of like template that Amazon has created to the customer. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. And Rob, I've linked a YouTube video, or for Rob, you're familiar with it, but for those that aren't familiar, I put a reply under Rob's comment of the video that was released yesterday. And looks like Rob has the follow-up question as well. Can we get a list of the Chinese holidays? And absolutely, I'm going to drop another link. We actually have a blog post that has that information. So I'll also link that out to you guys. So if you want to take the next question, Greg, while I look that up.
Yeah, sure thing. The next one is from Crystal. She said, hey, I already created an Amazon seller account using my personal account that I've had for years. However, after watching module number 1, Greg recommends we create a brand new account. What are the downfalls of keeping my same account? Also, just create an LLC. Can I change my details to be my LLC? No, it's actually fine to use an account that you've already created. Yes, you are able to change your account owner to your LLC. The way you go about doing that is with I'm trying to see what it is here, but it's like, it says something like tax settings, I think. I think you go in there, let's see. Yeah, there's a few things you have to change. It's under business information, which is under your seller account information. You need to change the legal entity, and then you have to do a new tax. I think they call it a tax interview. And that's how you can change it over to your LLC. So that's perfectly fine to use that one that you've already created, no problem. All right. The next one says, Angela says, my freight forwarder ships directly from the Chinese port into Amazon's warehouse. I do not have an annual customs bond, and they do not charge me a bond fee for each shipment as they use their own annual bond for me to import to the US. Is that okay? Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying to like remember. Okay, like so, what's the purpose of a bond? It's essentially like an insurance policy to make sure that you pay tariffs. So it's like, okay, if the freight forwarder wants to like use their bond to essentially insure it for you, yeah, I don't think that's any problem. Angela says, PPC question: if I get a high performing ASIN on an automatic campaign, where do I put them? Do I add the ASINs to my manual broad exact phrase campaigns? Is an ASIN a keyword? When you get ASINs inside of your automatic campaign, what that means is that somebody clicked on your ad on that person's ASIN. So if you look on some of the product listing pages, you'll see that on there are other similar products being advertised. So if you click on one of those and you end up purchasing that, or even if you don't, it's still like a click. That's what it's telling you by putting that ASIN in the automatic reports. So if there's a high performing one, what you can do is you can set up a product targeting sponsored products campaign, and that's how you can target that ASIN for your ad.
Yeah, and I would add to that also. Just I'm not sure. I was looking at different blog posts to send out, but definitely use product targeting ads with that ASIN. That's a really good type of PPC strategy. It's fairly new. I think it was in the last year that it was launched, where you can literally create campaigns that are targeting specific products. And if you know that ASIN is a good performing ASIN, I would just create a separate from everything else. I mean, this is separate from your broad phrase and exact match campaigns. This is almost off on its own, a product targeting campaign.
Next one's from Adina. As a new bill in a week in, I'm assuming from the questions answered about the dynamic bidding, the keyword answer, that means you have to bid for a particular keyword to be associated with your product in competition with other sellers. Is that right? Adina, there are a number of different types of like advertising campaigns you can run on Amazon. The simplest form is called an automatic campaign, and Amazon's just going to choose whichever placements they think are most relevant for your product and show them there. It's super easy. Once you get a little bit more advanced, you can start bidding on particular keywords. And then, yes, just like you said, how it works is you're competing with other sellers for those keywords. Rob said, I feel like some of my competitors are using ClickBots to spend my PPC. Is this possible? Very unlikely. Amazon's like abuse detection algorithms are quite sophisticated. It's unlikely that that's happening. You'll also see sometimes that like you'll be charged or like shown that you have so many clicks. And then if you go back a few days later and look at it again, Amazon will have removed some of those clicks, and like they'll essentially give you your money back. And the reason for that is, their bot detection algorithm is pretty sophisticated. Same thing, like if they know it's your competitor clicking on it, they don't charge you for it either.
All right. Looks like Dan asks a question of when you run the JS product database and under the price column, it says no data. Does that mean that it's not a good product to go after?
Not necessarily. All that means is the last time that listing was checked, there was no price in the buy box, which either means that Amazon thought that none of the offers were like kind of valid to show, or it was out of stock.
Adina says maybe a tool for keywords would be a business venture. Actually, we got you covered. I know that you're new to this, but we have a Keyword Scout. You're gonna love it. It actually solves this this problem of finding some gems of keywords. So definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's an awesome tool.
Dan asks, Greg, I've watched your website vid a dozen times, and I've mimicked to the letter everything you said to do. However, I'm having a challenge in landing a manufacturer supplier in the food world. Is there something else I could try because I've had no luck?
Yeah, I said the wholesale vid. I don't have any strategies that I didn't discuss in that video. I will say that that over the years, it has been getting harder and harder to find these companies that want to work with you because everyone's just kind of like wising up to Amazon. So I'd either say, do the private label thing, like we primarily teach in the Freedom Builder Bootcamp, or either than that, just kind of like keep trying. I haven't like found any strategies that work better than the ones I shared there. Yeah.
Something to try is I'm not sure if you've attempted this, but use thomasnet.com. That's it'll open up to more potential suppliers, manufacturers. So yeah, trying to utilize. Your best bet is utilizing these search engines that can help you go through and find more manufacturers, more suppliers for the specific product type that you're looking for.
The next one's from Gabby. She says, hey, I'm from Sweden. What advice do you have about selling on Amazon Sweden? Because there's no Jungle Scout information since it hasn't started yet. Yeah, good question. To be honest, I probably would not focus on starting to sell on Amazon Sweden. When it's brand new, it's really just not going to have that much demand. If I was you, I would sell on one of the other EU platforms. If you're really gung-ho about selling on the Sweden one, then you could look at other items that you feel like are in high demand on other stores in Sweden. Alternatively, other items, like in other European countries that you believe have like similar cultures or it's the same types of products are popular. I think that would be my advice.
Rob asks, what should we do to prepare for Prime Day? I'll like briefly just give you a couple of suggestions. Definitely, because Prime Day is next week. As if many of you are not familiar with it, it's October 13th through it's 2 days actually. The 13th and the 14th is what Prime Day for this year landed on. And I know it's very last minute. They actually announced this just a few weeks back. So we've been preparing mentally. We've known that it's bound to happen, but they announced it. And at this stage, it's probably hard to get additional supply in. But if you are fully stocked up to what you currently have at the fulfillment centers, you want to optimize your listing, increase your campaigns, and at the budget level, as well as increase bids on high performing keywords. I think if anything, if you have the ability to maybe add additional images, lifestyle images. If like right now, it's just very basic. The photos that you have, definitely include more images so that you can just command more real estate on your listing. And ad copy, like I always think that ad copy is very important. Remember, you're trying to convince someone and persuade someone to buy your product. Anything else that I'm missing, Greg, that you could do still?
I think that's pretty good.
We also talk about in the video that I dropped in YouTube, Lenny yesterday talked about virtual bundles. This is something that you can actually still do. You're still in time for that. It's a beta program, so it may not apply to everyone. But if you click under brands, if you are eligible, you will see an option there for virtual bundles. And this is one way to move maybe a slow-moving product, bundle it with another one if it makes sense, and increase your ROI by doing so. So virtual bundles is another option. Just watch the video. Lenny does a great job at explaining how to get that going.
Let's see here. I think I kind of already answered this one for Dan about the wholesale stuff. Angela said, I haven't looked at the automatic review feature yet. If you turn it on, does that count as Amazon's one request for a review per purchase restriction? If I have an email campaign set up in Jungle Scout, should I turn this off? So I know this is a little bit confusing, but the way that the review automation that we just released works is it tells Amazon to send out one of their special templates requesting a review through the request a review programs. That's what Rolando was saying. It was like, there's no gray area here. It couldn't mistakenly be thought of as something that was illegal or whatever else. Like, it's perfectly kosher, and that's how they've developed it. And yeah, it's great for that. This is a different request a review type than the email campaigns. So you actually can leave both of them on. What we found is this request a review automation is it's much more effective. I think the deliverability of it is higher. And yeah, people just tend to get more reviews with it. You can leave both on if you want, but if you want to turn one off, I would definitely turn off the email campaigns and not the request a review functionality.
Rob asks, what's a good CTR? And for those that are new, CTR is click-through rate. In other words, when it comes to PPC and you're paying for, you only pay when someone clicks. So there's the impression. In other words, the ad is displaying, and until they click on that ad, then you get charged. Now, a good click-through rate of someone clicking on an impression with Amazon, typically is going to be anywhere above like 0.5. So not even a percent, like 0.5% and above. So if you're like reaching those numbers, then you're probably, and it's going to vary obviously by product, but I would say like as a, general area consensus would be like 0.5% and above.
All right. Oliver said, can I use JumpSend? I'm selling in the Amazon UK marketplace. Yes, the deals on JumpSend support Amazon US and Amazon UK. Gabby says, can I ship 200 products to Amazon to use it in FBA and 300 units of the same product to me to use it as FBM at the same time? Yes, you can. You can create 2 offers on the same listing, one FBA, one FBM, no problems there. Gabby said, how long will you keep doing the live sessions? Because I am in the beginning of the course and I'm sure many questions will come up. I don't know, maybe like another year or 2 or 3. No, we don't have any end in sight for stopping to do these. It's something that Rolando and I both really enjoy. We want to do everything we can to help you be successful on Amazon. So yeah, the plan is to do this for years. I don't know. Till I get too old where I can't sit up there. I don't know.
As long as it takes till you succeed.
That's it. Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Angela says, is there a way to automatically turn on and off PPC at different times during the day? That is, instead of starting at midnight each day, is there a way to run it from 3 p.m. to 12 a.m. each day? That is not functionality that is built into Amazon's advertising platform by default. There are third-party tools. You can search for like Amazon advertising tool day parting is what it's called, day parting. And those tools will kind of automate that process for you.
I will say in the early stages, when you're first running your PPC, it is best to run them around the clock. And if that requires adding a little more budget, what you're trying to do is you're trying to give Amazon as much data as possible to be able to identify your, that perfect customer of yours. So that's why I suggest just keep it running. Do not interfere. You might find hours that purchases are coming through the most, but Amazon's algorithm is figuring that out for you. So you do want to keep it running 24/7.
The next question is from Brett. And I'm not sure if this is regarding purchasing UPC codes or on Seller Central, but says, I'm looking into setting up a brand. It looks like you have to pick a category. is it easy to add more categories after the first is set up? Do you have to pick all potential categories up front? Do you have to pay full price again for each category? On Amazon, you can add as many categories as you want that are kind of unlocked for new products. Each individual product can only be in one category. They used to let you kind of, or there used to be hacks to get in multiple ones. They've really cleaned that up a lot. So now it's just in one category. But it's easy to, you can add as many new products as you want, and you can put those in any of the categories that you want, with a few little exceptions of gated categories. The second question is, oh, and it doesn't cost any money to add new categories. That's why I wasn't sure if you were referring to UPC codes or Seller Central. His second question says, I have some expertise about my potential first product, and I'm thinking about having an ebook to bundle with it. You mentioned in one of your modules that you can't add an ebook, but I've seen many listings that advertise an ebook with whatever they are selling. Is it okay to include an ebook? If so, how does one do it? I don't see how to bundle an ebook with my product. Amazon does not like, I don't know if it works anymore. It might not even work. If it does, they don't like you sending attachments through the buyer-seller messaging platform. And even if that is still allowed, like I'd say more than half of people probably opted out of those emails, so they won't receive it. So I guess what I'm saying here is that to try to deliver it to your customer electronically through the Amazon system is very difficult. So I wouldn't do it. There's going to be unhappy people. The only way I can kind of think of is like if you put a little card with a link or whatever else inside of your box that they actually receive, and it told them to like go to your website and download it. You can do that if you want. And that actually would probably be better because then you can create an email list from it. But yeah, that's how it works.
All right. Angela asks, I live in Australia. My residential address has changed, and I need to update it in Amazon. To change the address, I need to do the tax interview. I'm worried if I do the tax interview, it will trigger Amazon's AI and something bad will happen. An example, my account will be suspended. Can I just change the address, or will Amazon want further information / documents? It's one of those things where you just never know what Amazon's going to request. And you're correct, is sometimes it can trigger that they just want additional documentation. If you have those documents, then it shouldn't be anything to be alarmed by or worried. Typically, what they're going to ask for is maybe a bill that's in, that goes to that address. They just want to verify that you're actually living and residing at that address. Or they may trigger a postcard. That's one way that they verify addresses as well. And that postcard has some type of access code that you have to provide them. I don't think that they will go to that extent since you are an established seller. So that would be my first instinct. I would just make sure to be prepared to furnish them with some type of proof of address. All right.
Oops, sorry. The next question is, are there any Yassiv alternatives? I haven't heard anyone talk about this in a while, but it was this tool that could kind of create visualizations of similar products. I don't know for sure what it stands for, like a yet another something visualization. I don't know, whatever. And I think it got shut down because of something with Amazon's API, and I'm not familiar with any alternatives. Sorry.
All right. Brett has a suggestion. It says that when he clicked on to access the session from within the course, it took me to the one from September, not this one in October. Better descriptions of how to access these. Okay. Now we could easily correct that, Brett. It's just probably a link error.
Sure that's up. Get that fixed. And then you can always, really one of the, or probably the best place to always be in the know of what's going on is inside of the Freedom Builder Bootcamp Facebook group.
Yeah, typically the announcement of when this goes live the way that Facebook Live works, it only allows you to do a week out in advance to schedule a live production. So the week prior, you will see a pinned post that will say when we're going live. And in that pinned post, you can already begin to start dropping your questions. As you can see, we try to go through those first and then get to the live questions as well. Get through all of them as best as possible.
All right. Rob says, should we be targeting Prime Day keywords in our PPC? If so, what kind of keywords? I probably wouldn't worry about it, to be honest. I doubt Amazon will kind of show or give you impressions for those. Do you have any 3PLs that you recommend? Do you, Rolando?
Off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but I've always had success in the sense of just doing a Google search and in my area, because it depends on, where you're located, what country, and so on and so forth, where you're selling. So I would just do a Google search, and I've had a lot of success with just finding the top rating ones. They're always going to organically be. The one thing that you want to veer or steer away from is try to avoid, like, let's say you do a Google search, try to avoid the ones that are advertising, the Google search ads, and go to the organically ranked 3PL service providers, because you know that they've been established for some time. For them to be able to rank in like page 1, they're obviously reputable, and you could just dig a little deeper. And what I always do is I interview them and I ask the questions that I have, and if they answer to the best of their ability and they give me good solid answers, that's who I would work with, and just kind of vet everyone that you work with in that manner.
There's not a clear best answer for this. We hear a lot of mixed reviews about a lot of different ones. I did just post one called Deliver with 2 R's at the end in response to Angela's message. They've been becoming pretty popular, and overall I hear pretty good things about them, but I don't know if there's like 1 or 2 that like we hear from everyone are significantly better than the rest. That's why I'm like hesitating a little bit to give a good recommendation.
Cool. Rob's giving us another shout out, man. That's awesome.
Thanks, Rob.
These calls have great value.
Happy to hear that. Oliver said, how long approximately should it take if we use all the advice from the course to rank organically on page 1? This is so hard to answer because it so much depends on how competitive of a product and keyword you're going for. I mean, some people rank the first week on page 1. Other people will never make it to page 1, but still might have a ton of sales. So yeah, sorry, I can't really give a good answer on that. Angela says,
go ahead. As Rob would love JS to incorporate a PPC automation that optimizes bids. You never know. We're always the one thing about Jungle Scout, and as you may notice with Greg, the CEO of Jungle Scout, he's all about the customer, and we're all about the customer. Our number one focus is ensuring your success. So it's a matter of just prioritizing what is best for you based on feedback that we get. So the more feedback that we get on topics like this, of course, it's something that we will always put on our list of to-dos.
Totally. Angela said, I've heard having a website on your packaging is against the terms of service. Is that correct? No, that's not correct. You are allowed to have a website on your packaging. I don't know why some people think that, but like, if you think about it, let's say there's a Sony TV and at Amazon, like Amazon's not going to make Sony take the website off their packaging just for the inventory they send into Amazon. That's perfectly fine.
Olivia asks, guys, I'm in Spain and was considering opening a store in the USA, but saw lots of issues from other USA residents with the LLC setup. Has that been resolved? Are those issues still going on? Then if I start with Germany, do I need to open a company in Germany, or would a Spain company be fine? How is your product research for Germany? So I'll answer the first question. Early on in the year, there was a bit of a setback, and this came from Amazon's in, right? They weren't very clear as to what exactly they needed in order to verify addresses. So this goes back to the address verification process. Typically, you could establish an LLC and use the LLC's address because they are what they call a what's the word that I'm looking for? They're like a virtual address for you. However, that changed, that policy changed, and really what Amazon's trying to do is verify a physical address. So definitely, it's not an issue if you just know the procedure. You want to use a physical address. So if you said you're in Spain, use your address in Spain. Do not use the LLC's address. They'll provide you an address that you could use, but that's typically you don't want to use that address for anything. To be quite honest, you want to use your physical address. That's where your mail should arrive to. And then in addition to that, stay away from PO boxes, anything of that sort. And you shouldn't have a problem if you could, because ultimately you'll have bills in your name, right? That's what they're looking for, a bill that's in your name that you could associate and tie back and just provide the documentation that they need. You want to tackle that second question, Greg?
Yeah. Sorry, I was going back and forth here on the music star. I was hearing you talking again. The second one is like, if those are still going on, then do I need to start with Germany or open a company in Germany, or does Spanish company be fine? Rolando, I kind of forget this because I've never done it, but you can open, like with a German entity or a Spanish legal entity, you could open a Seller Central account in the US or in the EU with that, correct? Like it doesn't have to be a legal entity or corporation in the marketplace you want to sell in, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So yeah, then Olivia, if you wanted, you could just if it's easiest for you to open a Spanish entity, then you could use that legal entity company you've created to open these stores in other places. The only thing you can't do, like if you live in the US, you actually don't even have to have a legal entity, even though we recommend one. You can just open it as a sole proprietor, the individual person selling it. But if you don't live in the US, you have to at least have a legal entity to open it.
And just to kind of add to that, I think a lot of the confusion comes is like, why are people setting up LLCs in the United States to sell if you could actually have a company based out of Germany or Spain or wherever it is to sell in the US? It really comes down to taxes and how you're taxed. And we're not tax accountants, so we don't really dive too much into that issue. That's something that you'd want to speak to like a tax attorney to see what the pros and cons are of if you set up a company within your country to sell in the United States or to sell within another country. And that's really what it all boils down to, is like which is more favorable to you as an entrepreneur. And the only way you're really going to find out is if you speak with a professional that understands your local tax laws and can give you guidance on that.
Rob says, can we have the next coaching call before Black Friday and Cyber Monday? Yeah, because it's a month from now, right, Rolando?
Yeah, it looks like. So these tend to be scheduled in the second Thursday of every month. So we kind of had that cadence. So I mean, we should definitely be before then.
We have time for these last two questions if we answer quickly. Oliver said, I ordered the top 10 products currently listed in the niche I'm going into. The packaging differs greatly between them. If I want to have my product package similar to my favorite one, but supplier cannot do this for me or find someone who can, what would you suggest? I would suggest using the Jungle Scout supplier database to see who their supplier is. Alternatively, to be honest, I would probably just not use that packaging. The other thing you could do is to find a company that does make that packaging. But from my experiences, it always turns into a little bit of a nightmare trying to coordinate with like multiple factories in China. Like if one person's making one thing, the other person's something, and maybe even a third one making something else, it's pretty difficult to get all those to coordinate. And like it ends up being a lot of delays and headaches and things like that. But that would be your option. Adina says,
Dina
sorry,
asks,
good. It's a 3PL is a third-party logistics provider. Typically, how Amazon sellers are using them are to store their inventory and ship it to the end consumer when there's a purchase.
and I could tackle that last question. This will be the last question of the day. Looks like we've tackled them all. Brett asks, I just heard about a virtual bundle. Can you talk about the new virtual bundle? Is it true that you can't run PPC on a virtual bundle? So what I'll do is I'll drop a video because we're almost out of time. But the video, Lenny goes over in detail what a virtual bundle is. It's if it's available, you do have to be brand registered. I will say that. That is one important thing that I want to touch on. That you have to be brand registered, and you could use anywhere. You could pair anywhere from 2 to 5 SKUs in a virtual bundle. And let's see if I'm missing anything else. I think those are the 2 most critical components of it. And you know how you physically would have to make bundles, like say from your supplier in China, that you would actually have to physically ship it into Amazon. Well, now Amazon will take over that part for you. And if you have multiple products, multiple SKUs already at Amazon's warehouse, then you can actually just kind of bundle those together as a set, which can ultimately get you more sales potentially. So that's why they're very powerful. And I would recommend taking full advantage of that during Prime Day to move that maybe some slower moving products. And so I'll drop the link in here. And then it says, and on the last question on that regard is, can you run PPC on a virtual bundle? You cannot run PPC on a virtual bundle, but you can run PPC to your main product, right? Like your anchor product that you have in that virtual bundle. And what the virtual bundle does is the only time you'll see it displayed is it actually displays like below the listing. So you're running PPC to your listing, and then below it'll be like, oh, people often bought these together. It kind of gives a suggestion of this bundle and it'll cost you less. So that's the real estate, and that's where it resides, and that's why you really can't run PPC, but you can run PPC to your main listing. So I think I got it all.
Yep, cool.
But I'll drop the link in there.
Sweet. With that, we are going to wrap up this Q&A session. Thank you all very much for all of the thoughtful questions. It's been a blast. Rolando, good seeing you as always, and best of luck to everyone out there.
Yeah, keep crushing it, Freedom Builders.
Bye-bye.